Welcome back to another episode of Len's 48 Willys Pickup Project. The front half of the truck is off for bodywork and paint, and while that's happening, we need to get the rest of it pulled together so that when that cab comes back, we can drop it right on the frame. So that means we still have engine work to do here, just a little bit, and get that ready so it can be painted. And you can say the same of the frame. We're just finishing up prepping the frame for paint, so we'll get all that done in this episode. Stick around. Today, Guy and Len are going to be working on that engine block. We've got one valve guide that's bad, and we started doing a little research and found it's not just a simple task of just driving it out with a hammer. It's a little more involved, and Len has tracked down a tool for this, and I'll put a link to it in the description down here. You found a guy. Maybe you can tell us what you discovered, Len.
Here. Did a search on YouTube, and there's a lot of different places that sell extractors and stuff, but this guy seemed to have something that looked like it would work good, and it looked pretty solid. But it's called Willys Restoration Services out of Madison, Wisconsin. Joe, who also races Jeeps, he's out in Washington right now on some kind of a race with one of his Jeeps. And he was leaving one day after I called him to get this, so he quickly shipped it before he left. So that's how we got it quickly. So we're lucky about that. But yeah, it's Willys Restoration Services in Madison, Wisconsin. But he's got some heavy duty stuff here. He even has this with notches on, so if you have the studs here, you don't have to take them out. He sells them without the notches. But when he found out, he asked me, did I have the studs in? I said, yeah. He said, well, I got another one, a little bit more expensive, but it'll work for you. And
wow.
So I got this one. So it fits in here nice like that, so we don't have to worry about taking them out.
Nice.
So that's a really nice feature.
Nice.
And then he's got adapters, and the exhaust and the intake have different spacing, so he got that built in. So it's perfect when you press it in. And then his heavy duty six ring or eight. Yeah, okay, so
grade 8.
Heavy duty, it won't break. Grade 8. And then this we're going to use with the reamer. The reamer is at my house yet. I got to get it. But this is special because my dad made this when he was in high school, and he was born in 1909. So he went to high school in the early 1900s, and he made this. So this one I'm going to use this for the reamer.
What was your dad's name?
Everett.
Everett. Thanks, Everett.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll do my best to try to capture this on video, and I've got a few other little things to do, but I think this is going to be the main job we're trying to get done today. Well, that didn't work out as good as I hoped it would, and it's not that we didn't get the job done. It's just that was the last of the video that is usable from that day at Len's shop. We fiddled around with this for quite a while, and we did get it. It took us a while to learn it. And so instead of having you watch the whole struggle that we went through there, I thought what I would do is come back here home. I've got this parts engine, and now that I know exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it, I'm going to go through and show you how we remove and install valve seals on this engine. Let me begin by showing you what we struggled with when we were working on this at Len's and how we ended up solving it. So I'm dropping this in. It looks like we're ready to go. We got a couple of problems. This bolt is apparently too long. You can see it sticking up here, and we can see it hitting on my lifter adjuster down below. If you go back and look at Joe's video, what you're going to discover is he did his with his lifters and adjusters out. It was on a clean block. We don't want to pull this all apart. I just want to get the guide out and put it back in and leave the rest of the bottom end alone. So what that means is I gotta use some spacers. Joe's kit did come with a spacer, and it actually belongs on the bottom here. And this is what kind of pulls up through to lift that guide out. But I'm wondering if I start by putting it up here. Let's say it goes right in there. Maybe that would help. But the problem is it's up so high here that that's not going to work for me. I need a smaller spacer, a little bit shorter one. Let me show you this. I took an old socket, and I just keep a bunch of these around for jobs like this. I drilled out the center, and I want to put this in on the top here as the first part of my spacer. So we'll drop this one in. Okay, now I've got a little more clearance. And let's throw his spacer in down here now. But you can see that's still not going to work. What I need is a shorter spacer. So back to the socket bin. I grabbed another socket. I think this was a 10 millimeter. Did the same thing, drilled it out. And then I turned it down to be the same diameter as Joe's spacer. And now let's put this together. Okay, we got the nut on there now, and we're ready to start working this thing out. I'm just going to put a wrench on the nut down here to keep it from turning, and we'll start cranking. Oops, hang on here. Okay, there we go. And it's coming along. Let me get you in a little closer so you can see this. Now, you can see this darker spot on the top. That's the valve guide. And you're going to see that start working its way out as I go. You can see it coming up. So I'm going to crank on this for a while and see if we can get it out. It is getting easier as I go. And that spacer is going to start going up into the bore for the guide as well. Okay, that's it. We're out. Let me show you this. All right, with that all the way through there, we can just pull the whole thing out now. That right there is my guide. Pretty easy with this tool. Now let's put that guide right back in there, and you can see how that works. All right, let's put this guide back in. So we'll drop it in there and get it started. Now I'm going to do this in basically two pieces. The first time I do this, I'm going to just have a couple extra washers in here. And then we'll put this cone on and the spacer since it's the exhaust valve. There we go. All right, we got this in place. Now we need to put, I guess, the bottom piece of this install tool. It's not really a spacer, but that needs to go in there. And we get the nut back on. Okay. Let's run it down. Okay, and we can just run this one down until this gets close, and then we got to reposition one more time. Okay, that's about as much as we get out of that one. Okay, now we got to have that spacer again up on top. Okay, pull this out. Drop in our spacer. All right, we're back in business. Okay, we should be able to get this all the way home now. And all we got to do is just get this to touch. We don't need to torque this. This is just setting our depth there. So you can see we have that exhaust valve in now, or the valve guide. It's set to the right depth. And we're done with that job. And that was pretty easy, really, once I figured out what to do with that lifter adjuster. So if you want to get one of these things, go back and down in the comments, I've got a link to the video where Joe goes through a much better view of how to use this thing, and you can get in touch with him through that video. He's got instructions, so hopefully this will help you out. There's one final step here after putting in that valve guide, and that's to use a reamer. There's a little crushing that goes on, and you need to make sure that this thing is back to its full size. So for this particular engine, these valve guides require a 0.375 reamer that I have right here. So I'm going to put just a little bit of oil on this, and we'll just run this down now. Now these are just some old guides, so they may go a little bit easier. But you just want to get that opened up nice so that that valve is going to move good in there. There we go. So that's it. Now everything can go back together. Valves in, the springs, and get them all adjusted. So we got a lot done yesterday, and I brought this back. This is the grill support that bolts up to that cross member or rivets up. So just a couple of things I need to do with this. I need to drive out these remaining rivets here, just knock them out. Then I've got some cracks. Wow, they go all the way up underneath here too. So I've got some cracks to weld up. And then lastly, I need to straighten this out. So I've got a lot of bent up material here that I'll just flatten out with a hammer. After a little strategic pounding and bending, we got this thing back into shape. Let's see if we can show you this. This line looks real nice. This is nice. We took care of this right here. Got these flattened out again. And now we can kind of, I guess maybe the next thing to do is to get all this scale and rust off of here. It'll be easy to do on this side. This side might be a little trickier just because I can't get into these very well, but I'll knock off what I can. And then we'll just treat this with a rust converter so that it can be painted. But once I get the scale off of here, the next thing I want to do is move on to these cracks and basically locate every one of them and weld them up. All right, we got this as clean as it needs to be. Before I put the rust converter on, I want to mark out every crack here that needs to be welded so I don't miss them when I get to that stage. So, for instance, we've got one right there. One here. This is a fairly long one. It's going to run down here all the way to this end. Okay, before we flip it, another one right there. Now I know this one wrapped around under there too. Look at the underside. Yeah, we're kind of in this. I'll mark them on both sides just so I don't miss anything. There. All right, I think that's everything. Now I'll just get some rust converter on here and I'll come back and weld everything up. Okay, we got it all rust treated. And you can see what little rust was left is now turned black. Same on the back side. So I think we're ready to weld. You guys have seen plenty of welding. I'm just going to weld this stuff up. Now, one of the things I like to do on especially something like this, so I'm going to drill a hole at the end of each of these cracks, and that'll just keep that crack from starting over in there. And then we'll just weld everything up. Okay, we're ready to weld. I'm going to weld all these up. You can see where I've drilled holes at all the ends of these cracks. So I'm going to weld both sides, this side and the back side. And then I'll come back and show you where we're at. I'll weld it up. It's still a little bit warm, but I hit all the spots on the back side and on the front side. This one was really cracked in so many spots, but I think we got it. Now I'm just going to grind these all off so they look nice. Okay, we're all ground off. Really, this much is going to be hidden because it'll go up underneath that cross member. So really from here down, and even all this stuff is kind of hidden, but until we get the grill on, this is about all you would see of this. But it's back in shape. It's going to do the job. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw some paint on this thing. And then when we get around to painting the frame, we'll paint the underside of that cross member. Then we can bolt this up and then paint everything, bolts and all. And this will look like it belongs there. Okay, we're all done with that. I shot some primer and paint on it. And this can go back now and we'll install it after that frame has been painted. It's another bright sunny day. We got another work day going here. Guy is in the garage there putting the last of the engine together and doing a little cleanup, and hopefully today we're going to get paint on that engine. And I will be doing the last few things on this frame, getting it ready so we can put asphalt on for rust treatment and have it ready for paint. So I wasn't with my wire brush able to get up inside here, and I would really like to do that. And then I've got a little more cleanup. You know, we've got the steering box is still kind of gunky, so I'm going to finish cleaning that up. And then this will be ready for rust treatment. So let me show you what I brought to work on those cavities. I ordered up this brush system, and it's got 4 different size brushes. It's got 4 extensions here, so I can get a pretty good reach. And then it's got an adapter so I can hook this to my drill. Let me show you how it works. Let's get it inside there. All right, well, we're getting the loose, flaky stuff off, and we're going to leave the rest of the work up to the rust converter. I think we're about as done as we need to be. Got all this cleaned out inside, all the crevices that I could reach. And so all the flaky stuff is gone. And then last minute, I remembered we had a cross member that came out of my parts truck that was pretty bad, pretty filthy. So I took a minute with some wire wheels and I got that cleaned up. So now we can rust treat that as well when we do the frame. So I think all I'm going to do now is just kind of wash this down, and then I'll roll this back into the garage, get some tarps out, bring it back out, and we can start putting down the asphalt. Okay, I think we covered every inch we needed to cover here. And we're going to run and get lunch in a little bit. We'll come back and I'll show you how this looks. Everything should be starting to turn right now, in fact. So we just finished lunch and we're back now. And you can see most of this stuff is turned. It's either kind of a blackish or a dark brown. Still tacky in a few spots. But I think this frame is about ready for paint. So next time we're going to be putting paint on this. Since we couldn't do any painting, I had to let that asphalt go for 24 hours. Guy said we can't leave. So we started on the rear leaf springs. We got this one out completely. And the new one in. So Lynn's just tidying things up, and he's still got to get the Zerks on and get our cotter pins in, but we got it. That one was a little bit of a struggle. This one, this side, we've already got our pins knocked out, so, and we've got our U-bolts and our plate off of there, so all we really need to do is knock that the rest of the way out, put the other spring in. But all we need to do isn't always that easy. So it'll take us a little while to do this, but we'll catch this one next time. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. The next work you're going to see on Len's truck is finishing up those springs and getting paint on the frame. And the next video, though, it might be Len's truck or it might be the Scout. I started a new Scout project, and if you like International Scouts, you might want to tune in for that one. But thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time.